I have to say, my husband and I devoured the show in like 2 days.
Oh,
It's
good.
just, it's kind of hard to describe. It's sort of if you would describe to me on paper, to be honest, if someone said it's a sitcom about a bunch of ghosts, it's based on another show of the same name, but it's about this couple trying to open up an Airbnb or a B&B, and the ghosts hunt them, and I was like, well, that's not going to work. And then I watched it, and I was hooked from the very beginning, and
Okay.
it's so I think it's so funny because I think that the characterizations that everyone brings is so sharp, and they're so honest, and they're so clear,
Uh-huh.
and very everyone is very distinct from everyone else, and it's just so funny. So
Yeah, well
yeah.
said. And I think that's why it works. There's so many things along the way that could have gone horribly, horribly wrong, and filled your expectation of the show being terrible. Thank you very much. But instead, I'm very, very proud of it, and
Hmm.
us all having such distinct voices, written so clearly, written so differently, with
Hmm.
historical accuracy and idiosyncrasy. It allows us to be 10 people packed like sardines in one small room, keep the ball up in the air, and speak as though we're, behave as though we're one organism living in this place, and
Hmm.
have it actually be funny and actually work, and have it not be just a cacophony of stupidity,
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of, and this is a very specific reference, but like in the movie Clue,
Yes.
when there's like, that's my favorite movie. So there's like the scenes where the camera is just sitting there, and you can see the group like running back and forth from room to room. That's what it kind of reminds me of.
So smart.
Like
We
working as a
also
unit.
all love Clue, by the way, and we're trying to get them to do a murder mystery, in
Oh.
like a murder mystery tour in the house. I mean, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but wouldn't that be so much fun?
That'd be so funny. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. That's great. Um, I okay, for me personally, I am always really drawn to actors who in a performance they utilize their voice. I'm obsessed with, like, I could do a dissertation on like Annette Bening's vocal pattern, I swear to God. um and that was one of the first things that I noticed about you, because I've seen you in some other stuff before, but this voice is so distinct, and I wondered if you could tell me if that was one of the first things that helped you find Hetty, and how did you find that it's this like beautifully wacky sing song thing.
Well, thank you so much. I agree. It's often where I start.
Okay.
And to me, especially when the writing's great, that sense of music
Hmm.
is on the page, and that's what is my job to find.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't necessarily think that I created the perfect wacky voice for Hetty.
Hmm.
The speech pattern and the syncopation in which she speaks and changes her mind within the course of a sentence
Hmm.
sometimes, that's just the way she had to speak. That's the way it had to be. And then you couple that with the fact that I'm trussed up like a turkey in a corset, and that restricts my breathing pattern. I
Yeah.
mean, so much of the work is done for me with both of those things. So thank you for noticing.
Sure.
Thank you for thinking that it's not arbitrary. Um, and yeah, that's definitely kind of where she started for me,
Yeah.
is that vocal pattern.
Ah, that's great.
Brandon makes fun of me a lot because I use the word, well, he makes fun of me a lot, period. He makes fun of me a lot because I use the word musicality
Hmm.
way too much, especially for someone who's actually not a singer. I use it way too much. But I use that word to describe our show and to describe why our group scenes work so well together, and
Hmm.
why the way I approach this character. Anyway, I should dial back on my use of the word a little bit more, but it is the word that feels the most resonant for me, both
Hmm.
with this character and with the style of this type of ensemble comedy.
Yeah, because I mean, sort of going along with musicality, I mean, comedy is so dependent on rhythm. So
Yes.
if the rhythm is not necessarily off, if the rhythm is different, something else can read completely differently. And it can change the whole tone and the pacing of the scene or how the other characters on screen with you react to you. So,
Yeah, we
okay.
as a group were very clear with early on, and I think this was smart, and I think it's because all of us come from the theater,
Mhm.
that we never wanted the directors or the editors to have to carve together in the edit room what the joke was.
Yeah.
We wanted to play each of those, especially those group scenes, like they were little stage plays, and that so that we all understood what, yes, the musicality of them was, and that you know, that we could deliver that we were all playing the same game in these group scenes, and I think we've done a nice job of that. You know, I've got
Yeah.
great teammates on the show.
I think that it's funny that, talking about ensemble work, that I mentioned this to Brandon the other day when I spoke to him, that I don't know if it's just maybe I'm noticing it more now with like great ensemble work on network television. I
Mhm.
feel is really prominent with stuff like, you know, Superstore or Abbott Elementary, and this show,
Yeah.
like I think that's like I always get really annoyed like when the SAG nominations come out and people just assume like, oh, it has a million people in it, that means it's a great ensemble. And I was like, no, like ensemble is about like listening, and if you take different pairs out of the ensemble, it can, completely change the like episode or movie or something like that.
Yeah,
um
that's the award that we all really want. PS,
yeah,
not nothing, is the SAG Ensemble Award. I mean,
yeah,
that's I think what we're gunning for, and that would be the most representative of why the
yeah,
show works. You know.
yeah, I agree. Okay. um I wanted to know, there's something really uh beautiful that is introduced in season one, um that I'm glad that there's a restraint to it, that it's not uh done completely, is the way that Hetty is having her eyes opened to a lot of things, mainly through seeing how Sam interacts with Jay, and Sam interacts with other people, and how she gives advice to other people. And I'm glad that like by the end of season one, it wasn't, well, Hetty is completely independent and Hetty is this, that, and the other. I like how it has, a start of Hetty realizing things for herself. And I was curious, playing a character who died at a certain point, and she's watching all of these modern things for however many years. How do you kind of calibrate that? And what's it sort of like to play a character who has, having her eyes open, essentially?
Well, the thing you mentioned is smart, and it's exactly the thing that I stated to the Joes was most important to me is um, change is uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
progress is not linear,
Mm.
and the afterlife is hopefully long, you know. So don't I mean allow me to take these steps forward, but know that this is a creature who's going to accidentally, possibly without even knowing she's doing it, take 3 more steps back.
Sure.
Because that's what people do. And
Yeah.
I think that's the humanity is there. That's where the funny is too, to watch someone like this come a long way and yet still be so blind to so many other obvious things. So yes to that. And yes, definitely to the idea that change is kind of the capacity for change is the thesis for why this show exists, for why these people
Mm-hmm.
are trapped in this purgatory. And none of us are really capable of change or capable of realizing it's possible until we're all dead, sadly, and
Yeah.
until we're all around other people with points of view and experiences and histories and lives that we would have never encountered in our life. This woman, this privileged, imprisoned fancy lady from the 1800s,
Fancy.
I mean,
Yeah.
imagine the initial conversations that she and Alberta must have had.
Oh my God, yeah.
Alberta died. There's so many different places this show has yet to go, and we're so excited about it. But that sense of empathy, that that you can only, I mean, and frankly, of representation. Like Hetty would have never seen these points of view in her life, and perhaps if she had, she might have been a different person, or
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I don't know. It's so interesting that the show, so it doesn't come around and say it, but it's there in the subtext. So it's sort of like these people who would never really interact in the circumstances that their lives were actually in, but they sort of learn more about empathy and sympathizing with other people more in death than they did in life. And I think that's a really weirdly awesome thing that I don't think any other show has ever introduced before.
Awesome thing. And it's the thing that makes our show more than just, a silly, enjoyable comedy, which, don't get me wrong, that's important. The silly, raucous, ridiculous comedy, and the rapid fire, just silliness that we get up to, but the fact that it's grounded in all these other things that resonate. And that's what we're hearing from the fans of the show, is that it's a way to relax and have an easy laugh, and then be surprised by having a real conversation with your family about something that's actually really important, that you wouldn't have necessarily had the forum to discuss otherwise. And that's, I mean, boy, I can't think of a better thing to be doing with my life, especially right about now. So.
I know, right? Yeah, I kept thinking, I was thinking this morning about that, not to sort of bring it down or anything, but sort of like the.
Dude, I'm thinking about it too. I mean,
yeah, it's sort of like,
female empowerment today, and just keep it about a sitcom. I mean, and this can't be that type of piece, obviously, but not lost on me at all that the Gilded Age was a time of, great wealth, disparity and privilege and hypocrisy, and people not having bodily autonomy, and there being a horrible opioid crisis. That sounds very similar to today. So I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's like, like this morning I was I was just going over my questions and making sure there wasn't something else I wanted to ask, and it was just sort of like, I can't imagine if 10 years from now, if this happened again, or Sam came into her life 10 years from now and she learned more about stuff from Sam, about just the stuff that was happening yesterday. It was just like, I sort of think that is so incredible. I would think as an actor to sort of play that, like light bulb, like realization of things that we, like, she's not going to experience because she's dead, obviously, but it's sort of like, I think that's such an interesting headspace that you guys all have to be in, like, at all times.
The ghosts are all, it's not the right word, but it's childlike in that way. It's a very good device that we can learn things that, as we learn them, are absurd, yet something that the rest of the world has grown completely accustomed to, And I don't want to miss that point that you made about Rose McIver's character, Sam, coming in, and I say it's like she kicks off a little renaissance in the house, where all of a sudden there's all this activity, there's all this excitement, there's this feeling that not only can the idea of change or progress be something that we sit around and talk about in the living room, and then walk to another room and talk about, and like go try to smell the grass outside or whatever. We have a limited capacity for interaction, obviously, for hundreds of thousands of years, but all of a sudden she's there and she makes us feel vital in some way, and that we have some connection to the real world, and can even possibly affect it, and be affected by it in a different way.
Okay. I was curious, one of my favorite episodes of the first season, which I'm sure you're hearing a lot, is Possession, which is interesting because you're not in that episode much, but I feel like you're there. And I was curious if you like had to, what's the experience of like sort of seeing somebody else take on a character that you have created, and also was there sort of any like training with that? Just because it's, yeah, I bought it, every single thing in that episode I bought 100%.
Well, that's a great and deserved compliment that goes to Utkarsh Ambakar. He confessed to me that he had been kind of studying and stalking me, and for a while. And Hetty does have very specific ways of carrying her, holding her head and holding her body and holding her hands. Obviously, he would joke that there's a thin line between Hetty hands and T-Rex hands.
Like T-Rex hands.
Yeah. So,
like this. Yep.
Which is kind of true, which I love. But he deserved to be let loose so badly, because he has such a difficult job, and he does it so well, having to be part of this ensemble and part of this sense of music, but not really being able to act like he hears any of it. So for him to all of a sudden get this, this showcase of his talents was he took it and ran with it and did such a wonderful job. So, and he got the essence. It was great because it wasn't a caricature. I mean, it was funny, and he got certain things about the voice and the physicality, but he tapped into Hetty's sense of loss and desire and desperation and ravenous desire, that he was able to do things in that episode that my character would have never allowed herself to feel or think or do in any other episode. And so I think you felt that I was present because I was the essence on a different level of that character was allowed to be present only because she was channeling this vital, alive human male,
It's sort of like we get to see like the extreme of everything that she is not willing for people to see, and it sort of is just, it's sort of like transposed onto somebody else. But I felt like I didn't think it was a caricature of what you do. I felt like it was actually very alive and very honest, as silly that might be a word to describe that.
No, I think it's a perfect word. And he honored the character, and he certainly flattered me, and it made us closer as teammates and friends. And I thought he did a wonderful job, and I was so thrilled that the episode got such lovely notice.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're right, I wasn't in a lot of it, but I felt like I was.
Yeah.
I really felt like I felt like I was there, So, and it gave, I mean, I got a chance to, perform the cathartic moment scene at the end then, where I realized, and I'm able to tell Sam and discover only in this moment, do not let your dreams pass you by while you have the chance to actually live them. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I guess, I mean, one of the last things I wanted to ask you is, since we have had this trajectory of this awakening with Hetty, I was going to ask like what you are excited about with season 2, which I'm so happy you guys, are renewed for a second season. But I think I just wanted to tell you really that the scenes that you and Brandon share privately towards the end of the season are so lovely, and I sort of can't imagine what those moments mean for both of those characters. The sort of excitement to have this like intimate friendship with people, and the trust that's building between the two of the characters themselves is very lovely. I guess maybe if you wanted to comment on that, just because I think that's one of the reasons why the season goes out so strongly, is because that emotional bond feels very true, and it feels like a building block to like lead us over to the next season.
I agree, and those scenes were really important to both of us. I mean, I won't speak for him, but we're also close in real life, and the fact that in the course of that one episode we got to do two scenes together is rare in the course of an episode, but that they went from two different extremes in tone and style. You know, the first being just the silly, delightful. It was kind of my most favorite comedic scene of the season to play is that seduction scene.
Oh my God, it's so good.
To have to believe so completely and fully as Hetty that she is actually being seduced and that she believes that it's inevitable. And it was so fun. And there's so many takes of that scene in which Brandon, believe it or not, is even funnier than the scene that they chose. I mean, it was so much fun. That was the one that I had the most trouble containing myself with.
Yeah.
Really had a blast. And then for that mere moments later to turn into this beautiful realization of friendship and this discovery for this person, Isaac's character, who has had this shell of bombastic pompousness for most of the season, to share something that is so terrifying for him to even put words to for himself out loud, and for Hetty to rise to the occasion and to be that friend and to be that mirror and to tell him it's okay. It meant the world to us. And it definitely, it signals a lot of growth for both of those characters moving forward and, for that relationship. And that's the feedback that we've gotten from fans about the way that was handled. I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
It's gendered a lot of important conversations in families that have been watching the show together.
Yeah. Oh wow, didn't even think about that. Just because this is a show that, like, I can imagine a family can sit down and watch together. So yeah, and I don't know why I didn't think that, but yeah, I can. That's really great. That's really
literally been told that, and in very moving ways. I mean, and so each one of these goes, it's great because everyone seems to have their favorite or their couple favorite, or like I'm a Hetty or I'm a Thor or this or that. So if you're sitting down in your family and the Hetty in the room realizes that, oh, I just accepted my grandson for doing it. Well, Hetty would never. Well, Hetty did. Hetty did.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I can see why Hetty did that. It's again, I don't want to speak too grandly or globally about it. It's a half-hour sitcom on CBS, and it's fantastic. And more people should be watching it than already are.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, but I think it's a good example of how, like, to me, I always get sort of annoyed when like comedy doesn't get like the like serious recognition it deserves. Like it's considered like lighter, or it's thought of like less than like a drama or something like that. It was like comedy is
it's technically one of the most difficult but fulfilling things to actually do, especially in a group setting. There's nothing like the kind of feeling that you get when one of those big ensemble scenes sings. There's just nothing like that.
Yeah, because it can be a gateway to a comedy. I mean, everybody likes to laugh. You can't tell me nobody says, I don't like to laugh, therefore I'm not going to learn anything from this silly CBS comedy about wonderful diverse ghosts. But okay. I just want to tell you one last thing before I let you go. I think at some point, Hetty says it to Elias, where you call him you syphilitic renegade. That is a great insult. I'm going to use that probably for the rest of my life. And then I was so delighted to see you on the show, because one of my favorite scenes and I don't like bringing up other work sometimes, but your episode that you were in on Sex and the City, where you have this really amazing line, Charlotte, we're eating. Like, I think I have said that to people and thought of your face in that episode several times throughout my life in like the last 20 years that I've seen it.
It's a really good comeback, right? And that's funny. I think that character feels actually somewhat related to Hetty, right? That's the type of thing that Hetty
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a parting question for you, because I noticed when I did my little research. What's your favorite cheese?
Oh, my favorite cheese? I'm gonna sound incredibly basic. But there's a cheese from Costco that I really like.
Is it
It's like,
Conte?
no, it's a Dubliner cheese.
I love
Uh,
Dubliner.
are you
And I
serious?
just,
Yeah.
yes, yes, I love Dubliner. You should try their Conte. And it does
Okay.
not sound basic because here's why. Um, I have actually had Italian people tell me that the Costco cheese, the cheese that they get at Costco, is of very high quality.
Oh, I love hearing that.
They
Then I'm
don't
not
have a
gonna.
blue cheese yet that I like. That's my favorite, a soft, sweet blue cheese.
Oh yeah, I
Dubliner's
I
great.
yeah, Dublin was really good. That's like I work at my day job. I work at like an independent like market where they, it's like a space. There are like 35 vendors in it. It helps, independent businesses have a storefront before they can have like a brick and mortar store.
Oh,
And
that's
there's
very cool.
yeah, it's really cool. So I work there part-time, and there's a there's a really cool cheese place there called like Black Radish Creamery that like every time I leave work and I like walk by, I just like slowly look around. I was thinking of blue cheese today. That's so funny that you said that, because I was like, maybe I should pick up some blue cheese before I leave, and I forgot. So yeah. What's your
Well,
favorite cheese? Blue cheese?
I like a gorgonzola. Yeah. Although
Oh, nice.
I do love the Dubliner, and they do a Conte with cheese, which I think you might also
I'm
like.
gonna look that up now. Okay.
And I like a nice Gruyere.
Oh yeah, that's good.